Ave Satanas, you're watching Sanctuary Satanica. Welcome back. This video is more me giving advice. I have worked with demons for quite a while now, and I have observed other people who do so or claim to do so for quite a while now. There's some things I've observed, there's some things I've experienced. I know preemptively people are going to have disagreements with what I say, and that's fine. I feel quite secure in my own gnosis and my own abilities and my own relationships with the spirits I choose to work with. Kind of split this video between what I consider do's and don'ts of demonic work. Now, my opinions and my approach may even vary from other Satanists and from other people on the left-hand path. Let's get into it. The Solomonic method, the fucking triangle, and all that. I have broken down before, and I will try to hunt down my old TikTok and insert it here about what the fuck I think of that.
You see here, the magician going here. Supposedly the demon in physical manifestation in this tiny ass triangle over here. Okay. You're protected in this ridiculous, overly jacked up circle here with the pentagrams around it. Okay. This triangle here, we've written the fucking names of Sky Daddy over it. Sky Daddy over a pyramid shape, over a symbol of masculine authority. On top of that, there's also a circle inside. And you're wanting the spirit to physically manifest in there. One problem, though, as you're in here and you declare that the only things that can get in or out of here is things under your authority, which you claim to be using God's authority and do it, but really, you're still human. You don't have the power of the angels and God. You're just you. So the only shit you have authority over is yourself. Never mind, that demon can't fit in there. Is yourself. So you're ripping away, while you're in Gnostic state, you're ripping away part of your subconscious and putting it over here. Because that's the only fucking thing that's going to physically manifest in front of you. Okay? And then, Solomon says, because it's a demon, to bully it and harass it and at times physically abuse it to do magic for you. The problem being, you just harass your shadow self. In my opinion, the shadow self is a mask for the inner child. So you just did a lot of psychological damage to yourself. This is why so many white magicians say that demons are just reflections of themselves, because that's all they're doing. That's all they're talking to. They're not summoning shit. They're manifesting a thought form outside themselves that is a part of their shadow.
Every single person I've seen that has used the method as laid out in the Goetia, the grimoire, in long-term use, they miss quite a few things that are important. And because they miss those things, it bites them in the ass later. It takes its sweet time. They get a lot of good results for what they want initially. I've noticed that they get very fast results for the things that they are requesting, but they don't take the time to assess what they are requesting and why. And that catches up with them on its own, which they end up blaming on the demon. I have noticed every single one of these people lose their fucking marbles. Fall apart several times, attract traumatic experiences that are just out of the blue. Demons don't like it. They'll play along for a while, but they do not like it. And if you don't learn to respect them and stop using that, things happen. You know, I'm not going to say like you're being punished because I don't really know how it works. I've just seen it happen a lot. Would not recommend. That leads me to my next point with this transactional, gimme, rub the lamp, get the genie kind of thing, behavior. I call it the vending machine attitude towards demons. Again, it's not that it wouldn't get you results. By all means, there's nothing wrong with a fair trade. This attitude, with the catch-em-all thing paired together, you don't realize how different each one is. And many of them were gods before certain people classified them as demons. And so they all have different origins. They all have different secrets and mysteries and ways of speaking and communicating and getting their point across. And some of them like to test you initially. And so if you don't sit back and think on those words or think on that message and really digest it, and I'm speaking from my own experiences here, if you don't sit back and digest it and really understand what you have received, you can act rashly, especially when you're used to getting quick results, and fuck yourself. Again, this is something people tend to blame on the demon, tend to think that they were lied to when really they made assumptions. This is something humans do a lot. If you read any stories about the devil or fairies interacting with people, oftentimes, like, those beings, especially fairies, are compelled never to lie, but it's because how literally they tell the truth. A lot of people have a hard time with that. Evocation. That's a parlor trick. Okay? That is a fucking parlor trick you're asking a very powerful spirit to do. I'm not saying it cannot be done. I'm not saying that it's always wrong to do, but I am saying it's pointless. It's honestly not necessary. I remember, and this is sort of a weird comparison, but I'm remembering when I was a kid learning how to ride horses, and we did, all kinds of little tricks and whatever with horses. And I remember asking, why don't we have them jump? And my instructor said, you know how many fucking muscles it takes for the horse to jump? That's something he needs the energy for when he needs to do it, not for tricks. And I would say it's similar with physical manifestation, which is what evocation is attempting to coerce. Now, I'm going to say you can't make a demon do something it don't want to do, despite the popular belief that you can. You cannot. A demon might act out things and fuck with you, especially if you come with that attitude. They love fucking with people's assumptions. They love fucking with people's egos. They love playing with that. That is the energy that they're comfortable in anyway, and that's the energy that they have you deal with anyway. But if you're too far up your own ass and you think you're high and fucking mighty and you think you have angels under your command and shit, like, you're already Delulu, so they might as well fuck with you. Physical manifestation is something that best happens outdoors, because when it happens indoors, it's really difficult to ground the energy afterward, and it's honestly really scary indoors, in my opinion. I've had a few happen. Most of the experiences I've had with physical manifestation have happened outdoors, which I am grateful for. Something that can be a beautiful, genuine experience, to try to force that to happen just feels really, I don't know, it just makes me kind of sick, to be honest. And if it doesn't make you sick, have fun seeing where it leads you, I guess. I mean, ancient gods. I mean, before most of these other cultures that we consider ancient. I mean, Sumerian, Mesopotamian, Canaanite. I mean, long, 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 long time ago, at pretty much the dawn of civilization. Yes, they are ancient gods, but they are also very up to date. They understand a lot of modern concepts. You won't find that from many other pantheons. I've worked with many deities before. I've worked with the hellish, and although they were helpful, although they were very loving, they did not understand a lot of my human problems the way that the demonic do. And the demonic not only understand my problems, but have seen them thousands of times before, helped humans through it millions of times before, and can see beyond it for me. I can deal with modern issues with the demonic. I don't bring every issue to them, but it is something that I really appreciate about them, and I feel like more people should, respect and care about. I think when we see spirits be more like us, there's a tendency for a lot of people, especially with a right-hand path background, to see that as less divine or less important. Inevitably, demons deal with that energy all the time. Just be careful with your ego with that one. Invocation is when we invite an energy in, whether welcoming it into a space or into ourselves. So when we're invoking, it's important to be patient. This may take several attempts for some people. This may take several attempts for one demon when previously all other demons came very quickly or came before you even sat down at the altar, others will wait for you to come to them, and they want to see if you are devoted. Think of it this way: if you had a million requests from people all the time, maybe you'd be a little fucking choosy. Some demons are very happy to be around many, many people, and others are not. So some require a bit more work to get to know them, and I feel, really boils down to your approach. Also, be patient with yourself. Like, this isn't something that naturally comes to many people, especially if you've not practiced other forms of magic. I would recommend getting experienced and grounded in some form of magic before you attempt this, only because of the intensity behind these beings and the intensity behind the knowledge they can give and the results that they can deliver. So part of having patience is having the experience. I say having the experience because sometimes when we do too much research, we are just filling ourselves up with other people's gnosis. Sidebar, I have seen so many different correspondences for the same demons across different platforms. I have seen at least 5, I think maybe 3 to 5 different planets supposedly associated with Asmodeus. I think it was like Mars, the sun, if we're going by the Goetia, then the sun, Mercury, and Neptune. Like, those are like 4. I was close. 4 different planets that I've seen, different sources like associated with Asmodeus. I have my own thoughts and my own gnosis, but I'm really grateful I didn't like stress myself out over everyone else's information about the demon before I got, to know that demon. If it's your first time ever contacting a demon, yeah, like, do some research, but sometimes you're just confronting a lot of fear-mongering shit. I remember when I first got into contacting goetic spirits, which is just so funny looking back because I was praying to Lilith every day, so like, I don't know what the fuck I was worried about, but I wanted to start with Astaroth because I heard she was friendly, and she was. It was a very nice time, but as I've gotten to know her, like, she's actually quite strict. Like, she's very loving and she's very caring, but she's actually quite strict with me. Belial, by contrast, like, everyone who was sharing gnosis on Belial was saying at the time, like, he's dangerous, and you're inexperienced, you shouldn't be talking to him. I couldn't help myself. Like, I was just drawn to him. I had this dream. In my dream, there was a demon with, like, eyes that were glowing different colors. And when I awoke from this dream, I still saw those eyes. And I remember trying to, like, debunk it to myself and, like, try to see, like, okay, like, what could have glowed in my bedroom to make me think it was that. Couldn't make sense of it in a rational kind of way. And, from then on, I decided to give it more of a go. I decided to put aside those fears and contact Belial. Honestly, I'm not saying that he's never been, like, hard on me, but I feel like it's always in the ways I need and always in the ways that I'm really looking for when I do call upon him. And he has shown me how to love myself in ways that are so wonderful, honestly really sweet. And that's not to downplay how powerful he is or how dangerous he could be, but I feel it's just so silly to fearmonger about a demon that literally, like, prefers to work with neurodivergent underdog people. When I look around at the people devoted to Belial, I'm seeing a lot of, like, anxious autistic people. Like, I'm seeing a lot of, like, gay people and people who were bullied, people who were bullied or people who were had a hard childhood or something, and Belial is called to them. In my experience, Belial is more interested in building someone up to be strong than finding someone who's already strong. Sometimes you really shouldn't listen to what other people say about a demon, and you really should just go in on your own. I know that's contradictory advice to what most people say. Most people say, oh, use all this caution. I think they're using the wrong kind of caution. I think when you say that, people end up trying to magically protect themselves from the spirit they're asking help from. That's not the kind of caution you need to have. You need to have the kind of caution of checking yourself. I remember I was tested once. I said, "What sort of offering would you like?" And the demon replied, "Nothing in particular." And my human assumption was, okay, I don't need to give that demon an offering. He just wanted to do this for me. But big guy pulled me aside, and was like, "Hey, that guy's a king of hell. He's a very important one. And he should not have to fucking ask for offerings. So find him something he'll like." That's what he means with nothing in particular. How dare you ask me? So I was already on thin ice, and I didn't even know. But luckily, because I honor Satan, I was spared, and I got him a suitable offering, and I gave it to him, and he forgave me. Take your time, be patient, and really seriously consider if you're doing, impulsive methods that are going to get you hurt. Path working through a trusted spirit, preferably a high-ranking one. I know different hierarchies work differently and position spirits on different levels, and sometimes they are from different hierarchies. Beelzebub, Satan, Lucifer, Samael, Lilith, Leviathan, like a big name that you trust, and path work through them to meet new demons. Working with a spirit of a deeper hell, that can help protect you from imposters, that can help protect you from egregores, that can help protect you from various energies that you are trying to avoid as you are interacting with the demonic, especially as you approach a new spirit, a spirit you have not worked with before. Just so that it's verified, just so that anything that would play games isn't coming through, and instead we're going to get the real spirit. You should be using some divination methods to confirm what you're interpreting. Again, preferably through a path-working spirit of a lower hell. Do not assume that all grimoires or reports of someone's gnosis are even accurate. When it comes to right-hand path texts, let's just cover that briefly. Consider who wrote them. Consider their motivations. Consider their politics. Consider their cultural agendas. That's all I have to say about that for now. And then when it comes to left-hand path people, a lot of people on the left-hand path like to publish things incorrectly on purpose for a variety of reasons. But often, to protect real information from getting to the wrong hands or whatever, a key component that without the right gnosis, without the experience, you're not going to be prepared for. That's intentional. That's because this side of the magical sphere, let's say, is more competitive. If you fall behind, you fall behind, and that's just sort of how we deal with things over here. And it can be harsh, and it doesn't mean you can't make some, buddies along the way, but just be careful who you wholly trust. And that goes for authors whose work you're consuming as well. In terms of what you leave out and what you keep, you may just have to learn from experience. Sometimes that happens too. Find your own methods. This takes some time, like I said, patience. If you have a foundation to your practice already, this is much easier to do. When I first started working with the demonic, I had experience, like I said, working with other kinds of deity. And there were kind of two methods I would employ, sometimes combined. The first being treating them like any other deity, putting out images of them, things like, colors that I think they'd like, incense I think they'd like. Kind of stopped giving offerings to spirits that I don't know. When I was newer to everything, I did that, but I think don't give like any offering other than the space is set up, because you're just meeting each other. You're not expecting anything from each other, you're just meeting each other. Making space to meet each other. So that was the first method I did. I just would set up a space and I would spend time in that space and I would ask that entity to grace me with its presence. The other method would be using a sigil and an N, meditating and gazing at the sigil. Some people say this is an egregore issue. I'm saying it could be. The first time you ever do this, you could run into that. but I find it's a good way to attune, you know, just the enchanting and gazing at a sigil. Summoning spirits without a sigil is a little tricky sometimes when you don't have a lot of correspondence and everything. That's why, again, it's useful to have a guiding spirit with you. In this case, it was a spirit I didn't have a sigil for, so I channeled one, and I remember looking up the existing sigils, and it's so interesting because, like, clearly they all look different, but they all sort of have, including my own, all sort of have the same essence to it. They have the same sort of vibration to them, and a lot of the same angles and flair to it. I don't really know how to describe it, but they are clearly different images. They're clearly different drawings. So it's just sort of interesting how that comes through, you know, and how the brain scrambles information. Sigils, they're just accessories, just like colors and correspondences and things like that. They're all just ways in which we reach that essence. So really the seals, traditionally, if we're going with like the Goetia images, are the seals of the spirits, which some people don't like because of that context. Some people reject those images altogether. I do not. I find them quite iconic and beautiful, reliable, have that spirit, have the recognition. Sometimes I need to work with more private sigils, that just happens. But I found that egregores aren't as big a problem for me since I've been really devoted in my satanic practice. So a big thing that I feel like I have a hard time communicating with people who ask me about demonic work is, yes, this is shadow work. Yeah, 1000% this is shadow work. You're gonna have shadow work like you've never had before. Now, when I say shadow work, I'm not talking about sitting there and journaling or hugging yourself and feeling your feelings. I'm talking about a real uprooting of a pattern, facing the worst fear within yourself, dead on, completely unexpected. The shadow is what we're not aware of. And it's really hard to sit down and journal what we're not aware of. On some level, if we're sitting down to do a shadow work exercise, we have some idea of what we're going to be feeling and what we're going to be thinking about. There's some reason why we're doing the shadow work, right? Oh, I want to work on my childhood trauma. I want to work on my ability to love. I want to work on my relationship to money. You know, we all have like these things that we go into shadow work wanting out of it. And even just from that, we already know what it is we're dealing with. And that's not really a shadow. There, behind that is shadow. Definitely behind that is shadow. But that's the mask shadow's wearing. And yes, you can uncover all these things about, you know, traumatic memories, but none of that really helps you heal. It helps you understand why you're not healed, which may be part of the process for you. It is for many people, myself included. But when you actually move into being healed, healing and being healed, those are two different things. You're going to be dealing with shadow, which is unpredictable. And once you are aware of it, it's no longer shadow. So that's how the shadow is constantly morphing, constantly changing, and does not go away, and shouldn't go away because it's an important part of your psyche. Demons just bring that shit right up. It's not really a way to prepare for it, but you just sort of get used to that feeling. Some demons will be a little more patient with you and maybe not just dump on you right away. But you're going to feel intensity regardless. You're going to feel different, especially in a first encounter with a demon that you really vibe with. You're going to have that experience where you feel very different than you've ever felt before. And that can be, you know, exhilarating and terrifying and traumatizing and healing all at once. And that is difficult for a lot of people to process. So again, take your time and be patient with yourself. This is shadow work. Record everything. Record everything you can about your experiences. You will want to review that later. If you've made it this far in the video and you still have the belief that demons are out to get you and that demons are just bad baddies that are gonna be mean and cause evil and havoc just cuz, with no motivation whatsoever, no reasoning behind it and whatever, then why are you even trying to talk to them? Surely you know all of that shit is bullshit. Everyone and everything is capable of both kindness and cruelty. But typically, most beings, especially most natural beings, and even most supernatural beings, do not do things just cuz. And it's really, really self-centered to interact with the spirit world with this attitude that everything is out to get you. That is extremely naive, self-centered, narcissistic, pathetic, and annoying. And that does attract spirits that do want to fuck with you just to show you what that's really like. And if you catch a demon on a wrong day and you do this shit, that's going to be even worse than some fucking basement dwelling spirit, okay? That's going to be worse than some haunted house motherfucker. That's going to be life altering. Remember, keep your attitude in check and know that these beings are intelligent enough and they know human behavior well enough. Before you even enter the ritual chamber, before you even, start opening the books that you're going to do research on, they've already seen you. They already are aware that you're thinking of them, and they already know your fucking intention. Now, I will say, when you're in your first invocation, if you've never experienced deity before, if you've never experienced spiritual energies, like conscious spiritual beings communicating with you before or interacting with you before, you will feel intense and your body may have reactions that feel like fear initially. If you're not prepared to sort of process that and just let that move through your body and explore that, be patient, take it slow, work with some other spirits for a while. Don't just jump into the demonic stuff because it's going to be intense for you. Try out some ancestor spirits, try out a different pantheon. Get your feet wet elsewhere if you cannot process fear in your body. Lean into fear in that instance. Fear isn't always about real danger. Knowing the difference is a key part of working with these entities. What about this entity is bringing up a fear within myself? Because honestly, I asked it to be here. Right? I asked the spirit to be here. I asked the demon to come here. So what am I doing feeling afraid? I'm not special enough for the spirit to just kill me on the spot. So why am I feeling afraid? It's just because a lot of their energies bring up that shadow part that we don't even understand yet. And as we work through it, we start to feel more powerful in the presence of that spirit, actually. We start to feel more integrated with who we are. That shadow may still be there, but it becomes more productive to the self. And enough about it is no longer shadow, that it's integrated. It still has to be checked on every once in a while, but it moves with you instead of against you. If you try to control an ancient god that used to receive human sacrifice, quite a lot of evidence that it's possible that people did sacrifice their newborns to Moloch. That's something quite valuable to human beings. So working with Moloch now, he may accept some more law-abiding offerings now. It's intense work. Where we fall short, we have to make up the difference in our work. That's what I mean when I say we must pay an equal amount for the things we want, and we do. That's not always in the things that we think we're offering back. Sometimes the difference is made up in other ways. That's not always a bad thing. You do the work, it works out in your favor, and it's a beautiful thing. But if you skip on that, you're going to have to do a lot of catching up at best. It is in their nature to be misunderstood. It is in their nature to be outcasted. Otherwise, I wouldn't be calling them demons. I would probably just be working with their ancient god form in that context of that culture. But because they have changed with us, and they've adapted with us, and they have the ability to sort of be removed from the stark, stiff thrones of the typical standards of divinity. They have a lot more ability to present in different personalities and to relate to us in ways that are very intimate and very daunting for a lot of people if they're used to the sort of distance between someone who is worshiping a deity and the deity itself. I'm not saying that you have to worship daemons to work with them. I know a lot of people have a complicated relationship with the word worship. To me, that doesn't mean like what other people seem to think it means. Like, to me, it doesn't mean submission. It doesn't mean groveling. It means simply revering and honoring and celebrating that energy in my life, that energy around me, how I relate to that energy, what that energy offers me. That to me is a lot of fun, and that to me is like how I really work with them. Is I get to know them and I talk with them. Really, talking isn't always speaking. Sometimes it's just getting into state at the altar and like creating art. Sometimes it is simply meditating and receiving images. Sometimes it is intentionally divining as I channel to verify things and to get answers and to make sense of things. Sometimes I'm just there to experience the energy because it feels good. And on occasion, we're doing some spell work together. And I rarely just ask for anything anymore because I feel like every time I ask for things, I get it. That's the problem. What I'm learning to do is be more specific about what I really want and to be more thoughtful on what I request. I love working with these spirits. They are some of the most supportive and uplifting entities that I've ever worked with. I feel like I've accelerated so much in my path to enlightenment, my overall spiritual goals with the demons so much faster than I was with other deities, and that's not to knock other deities. It's just that demons work differently and destruction does work a bit faster than creation. If you're not ready to embrace the destruction a bit in order to create in its place, it's more work. It may be faster, but it is more work. You're getting more work done in a shorter period of time. You can become sort of obsessed. So if that happens, just, slow down a little bit, do some grounding exercises. There's other times where you're going to want to be obsessed, so have at it. My concern when I sat down to record this was to build compassion for these entities, to build respect for them, because they offer us so much and they give us so much. And even when we feel like things are going wrong with them, like I said, if you're able to pick yourself up, if you're able to learn from the experience, if you're able to break the cycle, the rewards come in plethora. If you do the work, if you break the cycle, if you pick yourself up when you fall the fuck down, and you review what you assumed, and you really check yourself, anything that you think went wrong will turn out better for you. These spirits have powerful alchemy because they continue to use, and this is why, I'm referring to the demonic. They continue to use images that have been used to disrespect them as their masks. They continue to use aspects that are seen as negative to their benefit and teach us how to do so. There is no getting around being a bad person to some people. Even if you're the kindest person on earth, there's going to be people who have an issue with you, right? Honestly, what's good and bad, there's very few things that are universally so. The demonic teach us how to use that to our advantage and how to accept the whole self. There will always be parts of you that you do not like. There will always be parts of you that are flawed. Turning that into your whole self and being true to your whole self without trying to deny the parts of you that tend to be toxic. How about instead draw in that toxicity for a minute, examine it, digest it, spit it back out as something more productive. Transmute that behavior into something more beneficial to yourself and to others. That is what this work is about. And I talked about shadow work before, and I talked about how intense it can be, but I think when I say intense, like people hear these words they want to say are negative or bad. When I say intense, the intensity is also in the light experiences, and the intensity is also in the immense care, tenderness, respect that I receive from these spirits. They know what it is like to be disrespected, to be outcast, to be ignored, to be devalued. They understand all of this literally because they have been literally demonized. So they understand all of this. So if you have been through that, they hold that space for you in ways that other spirits just simply cannot. And human beings, a lot of human beings simply cannot. And if you've never had anyone hold that space for you, that is intense. That is intense to go through. Because there's always things that we don't talk about as people, right? That make us feel a little off or whatever. If you're ever anyone who's felt excluded, there's probably some things you have talked about with others and there's things you haven't. And the demon already knows this. The demons are open to anyone, but they are not for everyone. So if it's not for you, that's okay. Doesn't necessarily mean there's anything wrong with you. It just means that your vibration and theirs just not vibing right now. It could change in the future, maybe not. Not every path is for everybody. I don't go around just going, oh, well, I guess I'll try an ATR today. Typically you get into something sort of intense because something called you to it. And if you can't really identify what that is, I would say take it slow. See if there's a reason why you're curious, if there's a spirit that sort of stands out to you over and over again. Now, be wary on social media. There's sort of a demon of the week thing that goes on, but just be aware of your own experience versus the algorithm. I want to encourage creativity from those who are curious. I want to encourage people to share personal gnosis, even if it differs from the seeming collective agreement. Some things should be in common. There should be some overlap if we're all talking the same spirit. But in terms of what overlaps, I think it doesn't matter that much in terms of like what candle color do they use, what incense do they like, what sort of stones are associated with them or what metals. This depends on the system you're using, and this depends on the hierarchy you're using and the reasons why that demon came to you. So this is going to vary. Also, many spirits have different sort of faces and masks that they use, even if they're using the same name. Astrologically, I've been doing some research, and astrologically, Asmodeus, I like to use him as an example because he's so versatile. Asmodeus has like 3 major aspects in astrology. So, and then the Goetia he's described as having like, 3 heads. Figuring out correspondences for different aspects can be interesting. Sometimes a spirit will sort of shift itself to the work you're doing and recommend things to you, and you're misinterpreting it as their offerings when really they're trying to give you a spell. So that's all the advice I have for now. I'm sure I'm going to think of other things and kick myself for it later, but for now, this is the video. I'm going to have a lot of editing to do because as I'm looking at my recording time, it's over an hour. So I have to go because I have some prayers to do and I have to hit the hay. So see y'all next time. Bye-bye now.
Thanks for making it all the way to the end of the video. It's Editing Angela here. So there are 3 major genocides going on in the world right now. I have some links in the description because we really should be doing something the fuck about it. So please check those out. If you want more resources to do with demons, please look at my website. And, if you want a reading about a demon, you can book a reading with me through my website. All of it is there. Welcome to the Sanctuary Satanica. Let's make the world a better place for all of satanic kind. Thank you.